If you assume that I'm the type of person who would let anxiety get the better of them today, you are wildly correct. I was not supposed to be filming a video today. As it is, I was supposed to be doing adult things, but I can't leave the house. So I'm going to do the next normal adulting thing. I'm going to talk about my books. 5 years ago I made a video about the book series I would not be finishing, and as it is, it's one of my most popular videos, and because I am a view whore, I decided to recreate that. Now, actually, all jokes aside, I actually did watch it again this morning because I thought the thumbnail was terrible and I wanted to know if the video quality was also terrible to go along with it. But I actually thought that I made some valid points about how I felt about the books that I was critiquing, and they are actually series that I have never revisited, even though a lot of people in the comments were asking me to revisit them. I didn't. So I was true to my word about one thing, which is surprising, so I thought I would recreate that today with a more updated list about series that I won't be finishing. Great thing about reading is just because someone else likes something doesn't mean that you are also going to like it. So I'm going to start off this video by talking about the Liveship series by Robin Hobb. I have book 1 and book 2. Book 2 I do have a signed copy by Robin Hobb, and as I'm not going to continue with the series, I am thinking about putting that signed Robin Hobb book in a giveaway. If you want to hear more about that, it will be up within the next couple of weeks, but subscribing would be the best way of being notified when that goes up if you want a Robin Hobb signed edition book. So let's talk about Ship of Magic. I didn't actually finish reading this in its entirety. It is pretty long. I got to about 3/4 of the way in and I just felt like this wasn't going anywhere, which I'm really sad about because it started off so strong. It's a world of pirates and magic and hidden treasure and ships that are alive, and it just wasn't going anywhere. It introduced a world and populated them with these characters, and the characters were just not doing anything and not doing anything, and there was only so much of 400 pages of nothingness that I could read before I just thought I have to give this up. I was so disappointed in this book that it literally made me so angry and put me in the biggest reading slump, because I expected so much from this for what I expected of the plot, and just oh god, this is the one that really pains me to say I won't be continuing, because I just had so much potential and I don't know where this was going, but I just didn't care at the end. Another book which I have signed by the author is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is also a series I won't be continuing with, and as it is a signed copy, it seems like a shame to just sort of like give it a, I don't know, to just put it somewhere where it's not in my possession. So I thought I'd also be doing a giveaway of this as well as the Robin Hobb one. So again, if you want to know about when this is going to be coming out, you can check on my Instagram stories, or you can subscribe to make sure that you don't miss that giveaway video. This is not the first Sarah J. Maas series that I'm going to talk about, but unlike the other ones where I did enjoy some of the books, this is the first book. I finished it and I just thought that was a complete waste of my time. I hated this book so much. I also rated it 1 star on Goodreads because I just had so many questions, you know. I was so confused about who the audience of this book was, because it read like a young adult fiction, but then it had the most graphic like sex scenes that were just felt really out of place. I wouldn't recommend this to young readers, but I don't really think adult readers would really enjoy this either. From what I remember of this, because it was a couple of years ago that I read it, from what I remember of this, it's sort of like a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, but also where she has Stockholm Syndrome-ish, and there's all sorts of weird love romances going on that make no sense, that also seem borderline abusive. But hey ho, who am I to judge plot? I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of gross. So I'm not going to be continuing with this. I definitely hated this. I know I'm in the minority though. So if you did enjoy and you do want a signed Sarah J. Maas book, you know, hit me up later on. Another book series which I won't be continuing on with, but I feel like my justifications for it aren't that great because I genuinely liked reading the books, is A Song of Fire and Ice. Well, pretty much the Game of Thrones series. I've read, I believe this is the final book that is out that is actually published, or this is part 1 of part 2, I don't know, I have part 1 and 2, and I've read every single book apart from the latest book that was actually published. I really enjoyed reading them. The reason why I don't want to continue with this series is because the final season of the TV show totally ruined my love of Game of Thrones for me. I know that's really petty, I know that's really childish, but I did not like the ending whatsoever, and I don't want to commit to finishing the book series, well, finishing this book, having to wait 10 years for the next one to be published, to end up with the same ending, because I just really didn't like it. If maybe 20 years down the line he actually finishes writing the series and rewrites the ending, I might consider going back to it and seeing what he does with it. But at the moment, I'm not going to dedicate myself to all of this when I've just seen a terribly adapted ending for the series on TV. So I don't know, think of me about that what you will, but I just don't want to continue reading it anymore. A series that I've recently just got rid of in its entirety, also by Sarah J Maas, is the Throne of Glass series. I really enjoyed the first book, I really enjoyed the second book, and the third book was okay. I enjoyed the second book that much that I actually made an entire video raving about the book and how I really wanted everyone to read it, and because I thought it was so great. And it was really, really good. I liked the direction that the second book took in the series. I liked the development of the characters. Third one was okay, and then we get to the fourth one. The fourth book is also one of the worst books I've ever read. It totally changes the direction that the series is going in, introduces a new love interest that I have no interest in, because we've just spent 3 books building up the relationship with these other 2 characters who are in the trope of a love triangle. You wanted to be with one of them, and when they introduced this new character who I just hate, I just thought, nah, this is not for me, hen. I'm gonna drop out with the series right now. I did have the 5th book. I did sort of flick through it. I read a plot synopsis online and just thought, this isn't going to ever go back to where I want it to be. I just don't know where this is going, and I don't care for it anymore, so I'm not going to give any more of my time to it. So I believe there's 3 books left that I haven't read, but I just literally just didn't care. I don't care anymore. I don't want to give any of my time to that series, because it totally ruined it. And I'm so surprised, because I thought that this series would just keep going high and high and high, but I really didn't like the introduction of the new characters at all, so that's another one. Another series which I've tried recently, and when I say recently I mean like within the past year, was the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. These were my first Terry Pratchett novels. I know that he's very well loved, he's a very well respected author, and that I believe he was still writing this series at the time of his death. There's like 40 books in this series. It is one of the longest book series that I've ever known. And I acquired all of the books that were in the Discworld series for like £20. So I got like 40 books, and I thought, you know, it's worth trying. So I read the first one, enjoyed it, and the second and the third and the fourth one. And I just felt like I had read enough. So Discworld is basically a science fiction and fantasy universe where there's magic, and there's all different kinds of creatures that live there, and about how the society works. It's very in-depth. It's got so many politics. I've never known a world be so well constructed and be so unique, but at the same time has so many parallels to how our society works with racism and inherent sexism and stuff. So I actually really appreciated the thought behind Discworld, but I feel like sitting down and reading these books now in one go was just too much of a mammoth task. I think had I been alive to be reading these books as they were coming out, maybe I would have wanted to stick with the series a little bit more, but knowing that I had just so much ahead of me, I just decided to call it a day. I was recommended this series by one of my colleagues who said, you know, you don't have to read them in the order that you're reading, because that does seem like a mammoth task, because the series is sort of like has micro series in it, so you can read the books just about the witches if you want to, or just about the city guards, or just about the wizard if you want to. You don't have to sit and read them all, but I felt like if I didn't, I was just going to be missing out on too much. I have to read books in publication order. I know when people say, you know, here is a series, a 20-book series, but you don't have to like read them in order, like you can have them as standalones. I can't do that. I have to read them in publication order. Unfortunately, I did get rid of this series, but I actually got more for them in book credit than I did buying them, so I don't know. It was the gift that kept on giving. So now let's talk about Caraval. If you do like this book, you may want to consider just leaving this video now. I have plenty of others where I don't start trashing your favourite book ever. Ah, deep breath. I hated this book a lot. I don't know if it's just because I am 27-ish and I've read an extensive amount of books. Like, I have read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, that my expectations of books are a little bit higher than people that are sort of like 10-15 years younger than me. But I hated this book. I thought the plot was silly, I thought the world was silly, I thought the character was whiny. I just literally thought that this plot is stranger than fiction. Literally, I could not dream this up in my own head. It is just bizarre and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't find it entertaining. I don't know why I read it to the end. Once I finished this book, and I did see that everyone else was raving about it, especially on the Booktube world, and I just couldn't bring myself. Like, I actually saw the second book for free and I didn't pick it up because I really, really, really did not want to continue or give my time to any more of that series, that I turned down a free book because I just didn't want anything else to do with it. I know that sounds really harsh, but when I have this many books to read, I'm going to be a bit subjective about what I'm reading, and I'm not. That was just, I'm actually more angry at myself for finishing it than I am for how I'm actually being right now about the book. Because I've said before, I know that publishing a book is a very personal thing and it's someone's baby, but I'm sorry, I didn't like it. Another one is the Shades of Magic series. I read Darkest Shade of Magic. Is that what it's called? Yes, it is. It's a Darker Shade of Magic. I was highly recommended this book by people on Booktube sphere, by friends in real life, by people who I didn't even know were readers. So I was actually quite surprised that I was disappointed in this book. I actually gave it 3 stars on Goodreads because I thought that it was very well written. V.E. Schwab is a fantastic writer. I really, really enjoy her books. But this one, I wasn't invested in the plot. What the potential was, I thought the plot was very weak and the characters were very weak. The problem that I find with series is that the first book is usually wholly dedicated to world building, which is what I found that half of this novel was purely world building. And I understand that when you're creating such an in-depth series, the first book generally has to be dedicated to some sort of like world development and character development, so that come the second and third and fourth book, whatever, you already have that built-up detail to start writing more. For this one, it just felt a little bit overwhelming and it made it feel a little bit slow. I wasn't invested enough that I want to continue with this series, but I know it's highly popular. Okay, so my camera died and I don't actually know like where we got up to, so I'm just going to continue with my rants. Yeah, basically, if you think the second book actually picks up and there's some plot development, I may revisit it, but I think it's highly unlikely because I did give that book away. And if I'm also going to revisit a series from a long time ago, I like to read the first book again. And the final series that I'm going to drag through the mud for the sake of a video is Legend by Marie Lu. I read that book and I wasn't overly impressed by it. I thought the writing was quite simple, although I did appreciate where the plot was going. However, straight after that book, I then did pick up an Ember in the Ashes, which sort of has a very, very similar feel and a very similar plotline, but I thought that this was just executed so much better. And I would rather dedicate my time to this series over than Legend. So if you are looking for a book recommendation sort of from this video as well, instead of continuing with Legend, I thought this was a hell of a lot better. And this was like a 5-star read for me, and I do have the second book on my TBR to get round to. You know, finding time for reading is so hard nowadays that I don't want to dedicate my time to continuing on with a series that I'm just not going to enjoy. This one is definitely worth the time investing into. Actually, you know what? We've had a change of plan. So because I feel like I've been such a negative Nancy in this video, I'm just going to spend the last couple of minutes talking about book recommendations that I would make for series that are worth investing your time in. The first one is Illumini. This is quite a popular book. I will be surprised if you haven't read it. It is different in the way that, let me put them down. It doesn't read like a normal novel, it reads like a series of documents, which just makes the reading experience even more fun. My fiance has dyslexia and he finds it really hard to sit down and read like a book like normally, and the way that this is all broken up makes it a lot easier for him to read. So this is a book series that he absolutely loves. As someone who's a non-reader, he thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread. I also think that it's really, really great. I mean, you're getting a lot for your money as well. It's just incredibly fun. It's really good for if you're in a reading slump. In actual fact, anything by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman I really like. I really liked her series, These Broken Stars, as well. I have all 3 of these, but I've only actually read the first one. Again, another series that I would highly recommend. As authors, their ability to world create and create characters while keeping up the fun and excitement is incredible. So yes, highly recommend. The next one is the Sci-Fi series by Neil Shusterman. Again, this is a fun, easy read that is actually really in-depth and explores a lot of what the characters are going through as teenagers, and also philosophical questions, and it just has a lot going in it. But again, it's very easy to read. This is very, very fun, very exciting, and I actually read this in a day. I have books 2 and 3 as well in my TBR to read, which I need to get around to reading them as soon as possible. This is definitely another 5-star read. Love it, would highly recommend this as well. I was incredibly late to Rick Riordan books. I didn't actually read the Percy Jackson book for the first time until a couple of years ago, but once I did, I absolutely loved it. I would say this borders on being middle grade. However, it has got so much detail in it, so much world building. I love Greek mythology, and it goes into basically everything that you need to know, everything that's interesting. I think the characters are well created. It's a bit like Harry Potter in a way, and it made me feel like really nostalgic for an adventure that's around like school kids and they're looking for friendship and adventure. So highly nostalgic about this, and I'm going to finish this one, and then I'm going to go straight on to Heroes of Olympus, and then from there the Trials of Apollo. I'm looking forward to getting through all of them series. Another great fun read. They're like quite small, so I mean, great addition to take on holiday. Highly recommend. And last, I'm going to make a recommendation for Free Dark Crowns. This is a book that YouTube made me buy, but I am so pleased that I went ahead and picked it up because it's actually really, really great. I've just got the last book to read, but I feel like I'm putting it off because I don't want the series to end. But this is, again, in a unique world with a unique magic system. The idea about it is that there is 3 princesses and only one of them can be queen, and when they turn 16 they are essentially put into what is a fight for the death, and the one that remains, the surviving one, is the one that is strong enough to be queen. However, all 3 queens have like different abilities. So one queen is a poisoner. She is highly capable of creating poisons, and also she is resistant to poison herself. And she's brought up by one family, and then another one is brought up by another family, and she has the ability to speak to animals and control animals in her way. Another one who's brought up by another family in another area has the ability to control elements, and basically whoever's power is the strongest is likely to come out on top. But it's just a whole adventure. There's so much more to it. It's definitely in depth. It's just a fun read. So yeah, there's some impromptu book recommendations as well. So I'm just going to end this video now, but remember that I do have 2 signed books that I'm wanting to give away. One by Robin Hobb and one by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know whether to just have the giveaway for them too, and then for winners to pick one of them, but I don't want the other person to feel left out. So if you just leave me a comment or let me know on Instagram what you think the best way of doing this giveaway is. I know they're both really popular authors, so if you just let me know. I'll have another vlog out this week as well. So yeah, I might actually try and go brave the outside again. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.